council meeting for February 24th. Please rise to the flag salute.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilwoman Burnham?
Here.
Councilman Zipperich?
Here.
Councilwoman Horgan?
Here.
Councilwoman Schwabenbauer?
Here.
Councilman Taylor?
Here.
Councilman Whalen?
Here. Subject statement, please.
Let the minutes reflect that in compliance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Act, the notice of this meeting has been provided by notifying the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger by placing a notice on the bulletin board and filing same with the Borough Clerk on January 2nd, 2016.
Thank you. Anything for workshop? If not, let's move to approval of the minutes. February 10th, 2016. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayoral appointments, there are none. Reports of mayor and council committee members. Cindy?
Nothing.
Thank you. Ed?
Let's see, the Historic Preservation Committee met on Monday and discussed the procedures for
Until 10 o'clock at night.
Right, because we missed our day. However, the procedures for reviewing plans and the chair, Michaela Ferragine, met with Glenn Carter, and Mr. Carter will make sure that the commission members receive plans for both the zoning board and the planning board for comments and review. The Historic Preservation Commission is also working on the 25th annual report. Last Wednesday, the DPU committee met with the staff and Director Key. We reviewed the operation and function of the committee along with ongoing projects, which included road program, utility maintenance, and division responsibilities. Staffing issues and needs were discussed as well. The Shade Tree Committee met last week and are working on earning credits towards the Tree City USA certifications. They're also looking at courses to take this spring to help with the community forestry management plan. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Kathy?
Yes, I just have a report from the library. Tonight at 7, and I hope he's going to leave here, so he is starring, our police chief is going to be presenting at the Let's Talk About Race program that's been going on at the library. So that's tonight, and Chief McConnell is the keynote speaker. So 7 o'clock. On March 5th, which is a Saturday at 11, Jim White is going to reprise his bagpipe program. That was very popular last year, and this is a great opportunity for families to gather and learn a little bit about bagpipes. Registration is required. On March 9th, Eileen Moon, who wrote Legendary Locals of Red Bank, will be talking about her book at 7 o'clock on March 9th. She was supposed to make this presentation 2 years ago, but the library was shut down. So unfortunately, she wasn't able to, but this is an interesting book. I believe the mayor is in it, aren't you?
I've been notoriously met, yes.
And actually my husband is in it as well, but that's not why I'm promoting it. But it is something, it's an interesting book to read about all of the different people who have lived in Red Bank and their contributions. So that's March 9th at 7. Quilting is coming back. 3 programs offered on Wednesday afternoons, March 2nd, 9th, and 23rd at 1:30. And for the kids, bilingual story time on Saturday, the 12th of March at 11. And the Artsy Smartsy program, which I think is great, Saturday the 19th at 11 for ages 5 and up. And they will be learning about the works of Piet Mondrian, who's a 20th century Dutch painter, and who was a very abstract painter, at least in his later years. For those of us who are old enough, you may remember back in the 60s, there were dresses and clothes that were modeled on his paintings, which had black lines and primary colors, very saturated primary colors. So that's Artsy Smartsy on Saturday the 19th at 11. And that's all.
I just learned a great deal from your report. Thank you. Better times in the 1960s. Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. So Saturday night, we had the Fire Chiefs Dinner at the Molly Pitcher. It was a great event, and thank you to the Mayor and Council for coming. There was a lot of dancing and singing. Journey, Don't Stop Believing, which is a great song, Linda. Knows every word. But it was a great event to honor Joe Latterwasser, the 2015 chief, as well as to bring in the 2016 chief, Chris Soden. It was an unbelievable event. The whole Red Bank Fire Department, with everything they do with public service, it's really incredible, the brotherly and camaraderie they all have, so it's an honor to be a part of that. Secondly, for the police, about a year ago, we instituted the department's first ever K-9 unit. It's something the chief and I have been talking about over the last few weeks. The public absolutely loves Hunter. He is the cutest dog in the world. Sometimes the public perception of a K-9 dog is different. I mean, they're really, really friendly, and they're highly trained as a patrol and narcotics dog. Can also perform scent tracks for humans that are missing or wanted. What we want to do is actually add a second team. The purpose is to expand the number of hours and days the K-9 unit is on duty and readily available. Right now, the K-9 team works Wednesday through Saturday from 5 to 3, and is on call at other times. It's tough for, we need the officer and the dog, we have to call them, and it's tough to work out the schedules if we need them. So this brings some cohesiveness to the schedule. There'll be a 12-hour shift, 2 teams, they're always there. I just think in today's world, it's a really good idea, and especially with the safety. We train an officer in-house for the second unit. The chief has done an unbelievable job. I look forward to meeting the second unit, and that is all.
Will we need K-9 cars?
Anything like that, you could probably ask the chief.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't be discussing it because it hasn't gone to finance committee yet.
Well, it's within their budget, and they actually cleared it right with.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the long term. I mean, right now we have 1 K-9 vehicle. If we get 2 dogs, will we need 2 K-9
It would
vehicles?
be a repurposed current vehicle.
Right.
I'm sorry?
It would be a repurposed vehicle that we currently have.
There will be a K-9 vehicle.
Right, but we already own it.
So we're going to have to spend money to retool another car. I just want to find out. I'm not against it. I'm just asking the logical questions that should be asked.
Right, we haven't reviewed it yet in the finance committee.
And so when Michael sent it to me this afternoon, I didn't even answer it because it just got this afternoon. I think it's got to go to finance committee and vet those questions out.
I just wanted to bring it to the forefront, let it know that it's coming. It's a good idea, and I think Eugene had some brief discussion saying that it was within the purchase power and within the budget, which is something that we'll be seeing down the road.
Okay, great. Morning.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted a quick report on Parks and Rec. I want to thank everybody who participated in the Sweetheart Dance. A couple special thank yous to students from the RBR Key Club. They did a tremendous job. They were very helpful. Set up like a red carpet. For those of you who don't know, this was an event at the Senior Center for primarily for fathers and daughters. So those photographs are also available in the rec office. They were taken for free, so you can come pick up your photos. I want to also thank Dean's Florists for donations for flowers, New Corner Pizza for a great deal on the food and excellent food, and Jackie from the Senior Center for allowing us to host there. We're also going to have a kind of sister event on May 7th. It's a mother-son heroes brunch. So that will feature moms and sons. We'll have some special guests, athletes, firemen, cops, that kind of thing. So look forward to that coming up. The annual Easter egg hunt will take place on March 19th at Eastside Park. That is early this year because Easter is early this year. The hunt will start at noon, and we will also have some additional things that we haven't had in years past, and a little bit of an expanded program, including face painting, tattoos, and some special Easter craft section. So we would ask the families to come out, plan to spend more than just 5 minutes at the park, and really enjoy the day and take part in all those activities. We are also taking registrations for the spring intramural basketball program, which will be starting next week. And also some other things just to put on your horizons. I know today was a little bit warmer. We're kind of coming out of the grips of winter perhaps. So boat slips, garden plots, Couch to 5K, and a photo contest are all currently underway. You can register for any of those. The photo contest is wrapping up. There will probably be another one, but we do have some great interest so far. We will be awarding and presenting the winner with a gift certificate and a little special presentation here at the next council meeting. That's it.
Thank you. Linda?
Yes, thank you. Eugenia is cranking away on the budget. Over the next couple of weeks, we will be having a finance meeting, so I expect to have a fuller report. The finance meeting will apparently include discussion of an additional K-9 unit. And other than that, no report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, communications and petition request from Carly Cavelli and Luciano Marotta for membership in the First Aid and Rescue Squad and the Red Bank Volunteer Fire Department. Michael?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Would any members of the public have any comment on any ordinances on for public discussion or resolutions on this evening's agenda? Mr. Scavone.
First, I just want to thank the council and the code committee for agreeing to look at the sign ordinance that is on the agenda for introduction tonight. This process of revising the sign ordinance has been going on for over 3 years, and we recognize that the borough has spent a fair amount of money and other resources on the revision. River Center has specific comments and recommendations on the different regulations in the ordinance, and we will make that make those comments known at the public hearing. However, as you get ready to introduce this ordinance for first reading, I would like to just take a minute tonight to address the ordinance as a whole. I feel that with the revision of this ordinance, we have the opportunity to make a real and significant change in the process of doing business in Red Bank. This is an opportunity for our town to become forward-thinking, creative, and inspired with the ordinances that govern development and business in the downtown. It's a chance to marry our historic roots with business-friendly regulations that promote creativity. And really, with no disrespect to those that wrote the current draft, 14 pages of regulations with 3 pages of tables and 8 pages of graphic explanations does not help us accomplish these goals. Every day at River Center, we hear from residents, visitors, and even borough officials that we need to recruit more retail, bring in more independent businesses, etc. And I have to say that 14 pages of government regulations makes those efforts very difficult. And it's not just a matter that business owners don't understand the ordinance. It's the image and perception that these ordinances create of how this town views business and development. Business owners want to feel that they can operate in 2016 using all the technology and materials that are available to them today. And we feel that we can do that while still preserving the character of Red Bank. The problem is compounded when towns like Princeton have sign ordinances that are 4 pages long, or Montclair with 7 pages, or Cape May with 6. And we have many more examples in our research. Even the National Park System, which is entrusted with overseeing the National Historic Preservation, says that over-regulating signs can stifle creativity and create a false sense of preservation that does not accurately depict the reality of the business community. I really do understand the resources that have gone into revising this ordinance. But our fear is that whatever sign ordinance this council chooses to adopt will be the sign ordinance for many years to come. I don't think any of us want to go through this process again very quickly. And if you choose to introduce this ordinance tonight, we will of course work with you and will certainly give our input on the specific regulations. But overall, we feel that the current draft is ultimately injurious to business development in Red Bank, and I urge you to reconsider its introduction and instead work together to create an ordinance that is inspired and brings together development, history, and business. Thank you.
Jim, I want to thank you for your statement and comment. And before I turn it over to Councilwoman Burnham, let me just reply to it briefly, maybe to move it along. Because God knows, if anyone knows, you more than anybody else should understand that this is a process that unfortunately has been mired in months and indeed years of deliberative inaction. So I consider it fortunate that we have a document before us. That's the first thing I want to say. Secondly, I appreciate your comments, and frankly, had you given me those comments earlier than at the council meeting tonight, which frankly, I always have my phone and my door open to River Center, perhaps the introduction may not have been made tonight. But frankly, Nobody opened their mouths to me from River Center. Your comments are right on point. It's what I have been saying for a long time. It's what Councilwoman Burnham has been saying. And frankly, if River Center is aware that Montclair and Princeton has sign ordinances that are 4 pages long, it would have been nice to have them before tonight.
Well, we brought those to the committee, to the code committee in several
Oh, you did?
meetings. Yes.
Okay? Then I apologize for what I just said.
That's okay.
Because certainly that has not been brought back to the rest of us on the council, and I think I speak for the rest of the council. Now, I will take a look at those ordinances from Princeton and also from Montclair. I also don't think we should wait another 2 years. I know how much money we've spent on this with
I
our
agree.
planners. And I'm not suggesting that we should bring the planners back for further deliberations. They've deliberated enough. But I think we should introduce tonight. And frankly, if the council has certain objections, which I'm sure that they will, or they may not, I don't know, I certainly have certain questions, that is our opportunity to take the red pen out and start crossing it out. Maybe we can get it down to 8 pages, I don't know. But the whole idea was to shrink the 30 or so pages we had to what we have now. We've made progress, and I want to thank Councilwoman Burnham for actually taking the scimitar out and starting to clean up the old ordinance, which doesn't make any sense and is completely incomprehensible. So I think that those comments should be entertained by us. We should introduce it, but between now and the next council meeting, the council should take a look at it. I know I will, and I will circulate to the rest of the council and to River Center with my suggestions are, and I invite everybody to do it. If we not entertain it, and if we don't introduce it, it's going to put us back another 3 or 4 months, and before you know it, it's going to be election time again, and it's going to be punted until the next year. Let's just introduce it, but the council should take a look at it and make whatever changes cited.
Mayor, I too want to thank Councilwoman Burnham for all of her efforts on this ordinance. We met in committee last Tuesday to discuss it. Jim was present. He presented some issues that River Center had concerns with, as did many of the businesses in the community. We held a discussion. I was a little betwixt and between on the open signs that were listed in the ordinance, and we had agreed to carve them out. And I'm finding out tonight that the ordinance did not go back to the attorney or back through the channels that it was supposed to, and therefore those changes haven't been made. I pointed them out to Gene at the beginning of the meeting and to Cindy at the beginning of the meeting. And I just think if we are going to introduce this, we're going to have to make a couple modifications, either this evening or again in the next meeting.
I just want for the record to say that River Center and Jim Scavone brought these issues to the committee meeting last fall when I was on the committee. So these issues have been known. So I don't know why you weren't aware of it, but
Because the committee didn't send us his letter or his comments, we don't know.
all right, well then the committee should do that. But Jim certainly has voiced his objections to certain items in the ordinance, and I would hope that they will be taken into consideration because it is important that we have a vibrant business community in this town, or all of our property values will go down.
Well, I'd like to thank Jim again for coming, and Jim's been to most of our meetings over the last 2.5 years, where we have spent $18,000 with T&M, his planner, going over this. We have spent, and Stan has been there too, we have spent 3 hours at a pop. And it just seems like when River Center comes to the table, they always have something new. Like those open signs, you added them.
Cindy,
At the last meeting.
I respectfully disagree with you. We did not add them at the last meeting.
Not the last meeting.
We were asked by the Borough Council, after several businesses came to a council meeting to voice their concern, we were asked our opinion on the open signs. So we did not add, and I have to say the 9 or 10 specific recommendations that we have added I have a letter from 2013 that states those exact same 9 and 10. So I really disagree with your assessment that we have added things.
Well, I
Because
disagree with your
those all the
assessment.
way, and I'll show you the letter, and I'll show you our current thing, and you will see
And I'll
that
show
they
you
are
what I
exactly the
have.
same.
You show me yours, I'll show you mine.
And all along, we've been saying,
Something like that.
and all along, we have been voicing our concern, besides the specific recommendations, over the complexity of the ordinance.
Right, and Jim, you know, the whole idea was to simplify
Yes.
the sign ordinance, which
Mhm.
was started with Sharon Lee, but didn't
Mhm.
get too far. So when I picked it up, we had what River Center wanted and Preservation Red Bank wanted. And then we put them together, and Donna has been here for 27 years. She knew what had to be done to simplify.
Mhm.
We spent hours, and you were there too, many times.
Yes, yes.
And so there's nothing here. We've made compromises for River Center.
Mhm.
And, you know, sooner or later, you have to stop. I mean, we could spend millions on this. We could
Well,
start, throw
I-
this whole ordinance out and start on a new one.
I would-
If I
Yep.
may, Jim, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Cut me off.
No, you were done.
No, I wasn't. I
Just
just
going to be-
cleared my throat. But go ahead.
Forgive me. At the committee meeting, Glenn, who was the planner, was picking up the slack from the former borough engineering firm. And at the conclusion of the committee meeting, he was to carve out, because we had some dissonance on the open signs, and in fairness to both the work that you've done and the committee, and Jim being present from River Center, it was agreed that we would carve all of that out so that we didn't have any regulation in place. And then we would assess the situation as it went forward, and then we all agreed that we would revisit it at another time, because we would be able to modify the ordinance should we see fit. That being said, if it was Glenn's responsibility to forward the modifications of the ordinance to the borough attorney, that did not happen.
Glenn's going to be here tonight, right, Mayor? Isn't he
Not on
here
this
tonight?
issue, but
But he'll be in the house.
he's definitely going to be in the house, yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. But see, I don't remember, I remember us saying that the open signs wouldn't be in the historic district, but that they would be other places because places like Newman Springs Road and things
That
like
was
that.
Glenn's recommendation at the time,
Right.
until we heard from River Center that they had some objection and that the business owners had some objection. And therefore, in the spirit of concession, we were trying to take an issue that could become contentious and eliminate it from the process so that we could introduce a clean ordinance as it came through committee and be done with this and get it introduced. And that work wasn't done.
If I'm,
Yes.
it's possible to introduce it with the changes tonight, because then we could simply move the ordinance with the changes where section 6 and subsection D and subsection M were modified. I can read those modifications to the record, and that way it would be introduced in a clean form without the reference to open signs, if that's the will of council.
Go ahead.
Okay, so then the motion, should what be made, would be for adoption of first reading of this ordinance with the changes to the one in your packet only being that subsection 6, I'm sorry, section 6 sub B would read in its entirety: an illuminated sign located on a lot adjacent to or across the street from any residential district and visible from such residential district shall not be illuminated between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. And then section 6 subsection M, should we go to read it in its entirety: illuminated signs within a building and visible from a public street or public parking area shall not be located within 24 inches of a window, period. The illumination of said signs must be turned off when the commercial establishment is not open. And those would be the only changes.
No,
Would that be applicable only to the downtown?
no, because it had to be what we wanted and what Glenn had. We had two outstanding issues. One was the channel lighting, where each letter is individually lit, and the illuminated interior illuminated signs. And those were the only two outstanding issues that we had. And Glenn came up, and I thought it was a good idea, that we would have no interior illuminated signs and no channel lit signs within the historic district.
So only the downtown.
Would not have it.
Right, but it would be permitted in different
That was
places.
the way I got it from the meeting.
Gene, does that reflect that or not?
No,
No.
what I read, and it seems that this is a actual policy dispute between members of council, based on my conversation with Councilman Ziprich, I had taken out the language that would allow those signs in areas outside the Red Bank Historic Preservation District.
Right, all
So
the
it-
businesses
Okay, let me
outside.
understand this right. So Ed, what you're saying is that those lit signs could be outside of the core business district, right? I mean, that's what you're understanding, which I agree with, by the way.
The historic,
Yeah.
outside of the historic district.
Outside the historic district. So if a building was on Newman Springs Road, it would be able to have those
Right.
signs, yeah.
That's what I said.
If I may, I believe there's two different issues that are being discussed. One is the internally illuminated signs, which can be allowed outside the district, is what the proposed is. The other is the open signs that several businesses use to indicate whether or not they are open. And that was the other discussion that was had by the committee, but that was after I
Jim,
was, so I don't know.
That's an internally lit sign.
Right, yes.
So that, we wouldn't have those
In the
in the
historic.
historic district.
And Ed, what's your understanding?
And so the concession at the meeting was that we would carve out open signs altogether.
Not include them in the ordinance at all.
Right. And just leave it out so that we didn't have any pushback from the business community and that we can introduce this ordinance and get it.
I'm fine with that. Do you see where we are, Mr. Sickles?
Maybe I missed something. I don't see where they're allowed. I think the idea was to put them in.
In M.
And is where they were allowed everywhere except the business district.
No, it's
Mr.
in
Scavone?
the historic district.
Now you can understand why people are confused over
I
this
understand what you're
ordinance.
saying with greater clarity, and I think I speak for the three members on to my right, that's saying if we can get an ordinance of 7 pages long instead of what we're reading here, in plain English would be helpful for everybody, so at least we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, but you know what, you have people that, we've been working on it for 3 years. You know, Ed is new, and Mike was new to it, so it takes. Yeah, okay. You're right. Let's do it. But I mean, we only, at the end of the day, we had 2 outstanding issues. Was the channel lighting and the interior illuminated signs, which include the open signs. And that's what Glenn said, no interior illuminated signs.
But then
Okay,
when
that
Jonathan
means
left the
open.
committee meeting and said, I'll leave it to the committee to decide, and the 3 of us decided, and Glenn had gone to pick up his wife. So that's why we didn't get this modification made to the ordinance in time for its introduction.
Michael?
No, yes, it's how the code
You remember this?
Yeah, Glenn left, and then we decided to pull the open and close completely off. And we would introduce it without,
Okay, then
and
that's
then
fine.
we would discuss it as we went further, because what you said, and you can quote me, tell me if I'm wrong, was let's just take that out, introduce it as is, and then we can get the ball rolling, because you said it's going to take for a while, we can go
Right,
down the
let's go to
planning
planning
board, but let's just get it through introduction, and then we can tackle the open problem.
Right, we can always go back and we can always,
Okay, so with the changes that I read, it is now, if it were introduced in that form, would remove the open signs. And as Councilman Whalen just mentioned, and the mayor had mentioned, there's going to be a process, there's an opportunity for comments. So if there are revisions in the future, before second reading, then we'll be able to consider them.
Gene, I just want to go back to M, because I want to make sure that, could you read?
M says they are not allowed in the historic district.
Right,
And with the amendment that I had just read into the record, they would not be allowed in any district.
okay, should we put in any district
I think-
including the
I
historic?
think the argument from Riverside was they would want them allowed.
We know that.
Yeah, that's what.
But I believe what
It's acceptable.
Councilman Ziprich is saying is that they agreed to, that the ordinance would not address open signs at all. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But if we don't address it, aren't we leaving it discretionary?
Well, then our code guys can't enforce. Well, if we say,
But
if we
what I'm
say
saying
no.
is that I think Mr. Scavone is saying and any businessman or any commercial establishment will say that the climate out there, in terms of retail especially, but also professional, in any business district, is so competitive and difficult that technology has changed since 1960.
Yes.
And the Victorian gold lettering signs that you can't even read because our eyes are getting tired at night,
You mean the wayfaring signs that you
whatever
can't
they're
see?
called, the blade signs we used to
No,
find
the
out
business
5
signs.
years ago.
Those.
That's out because technology now has different technology, and frankly, if somebody's paying Madison Avenue square footage prices for retail in Red Bank, they're going to need every little help that they can get. And what they're saying is that if our ordinances are not au courant with the state-of-the-art in terms of advertising medium, we're doing our merchants and ultimately our taxpayers a disservice.
Pat, I know,
Right.
Pat, like Mayor, likes the open signs. He likes the internally lit open signs.
No, what I'm saying is that I understand the argument. What I don't understand the argument, frankly, is the neon signs, that every window has to have a neon sign that they multiply every night.
Right, well, that's interior illuminated, and so
But
we're
what I'm
just
saying
going to
is
take
that
those out.
if the idea is to provide advertising medium,
Mhm.
that's what you're arguing,
Yes.
but to provide a compelling need for that advertising medium, especially in a historic district, to be regulated in some reasonable degree of regulation,
Yes.
I think we can craft something that makes sense to do that instead of saying, we're either going to do it or not, we're not going to do it at all.
The-
In other
you
words,
know-
you can say one sign or two signs.
Right, and we didn't want, we feel, and I've talked to the business. Who's we? Kathy? Well, let me just tell you who's we. George Listus, and a lot of the business owners think that they look cheap. That's it.
Okay, I would just caution that we be careful about using words like a lot or whatever,
Well, I'm just
because
saying, I've spoken to.
I've spoken to probably the majority of the businesses, and in my opinion, the majority of the ones I have spoken to, the vast majority, would absolutely agree with less regulation and illuminated open signs and those types of things. And I would just like to address Councilwoman Burnham's comment to me quite a while ago, in that, yes, and River Center has compromised with the borough as well. And I think to ask us to stop voicing our opinion at any point is a little bit offensive, especially when I come to these meetings week after week after week, and I know that all of the council members have their opinions and they make them known well after decisions have been made. So I don't think you can expect us to stop voicing our opinion just because the draft of an ordinance. You said that at some point I have to stop. Well, I'm going to tell you what the business community feels.
And we have to, and you speak for some of the community, and I happen to know.
Well, I speak for River Center, which represents the downtown business district.
We're collectively for the business community.
That's your job.
Yes, it is.
If I may, the whole reason for carving out the regulation on open signs was to prevent this from happening.
Yes.
Which was why I was surprised when I looked at the ordinance in my packet and saw that nothing had been modified. So I was just looking to, when we discussed it in committee, Mike and I both sort of said, well, you know, we're a little bit between on this, we hear what the business community is saying. But it was important to carve it out so that we could introduce something that was not contentious, that was not, would give the business community an opportunity to go forward and try them. If every town, if every business in town on every corner and every square inch of Red Bank put up a giant neon red open sign, we might want to consider regulating that thereafter.
High def,
Mhm.
they were closed the other night, but their open sign was on.
Okay, yes, that
So
happens.
what?
It happens.
They're paying the light bill.
No, we just, that's all.
I won't lose sleep over
But
that.
now we're getting into taste.
Yeah,
And
now we're
it's not about taste, it's what's best for the town. So
Right.
all because I don't like something, if Ed doesn't like something, or Mark or Linda, the point is what's best for the town. Jim represents a large portion of the business district, and the rules in it that we want to put in place are in the district that he represents. So I think they do have a major
Right, and
voice
that's why
in this
they've been
discussion.
included. That's
Right,
why
which
they've
is
been
why we
included.
said we're going to take out the open signs completely, introduce it, and then we'll get to that as we proceed forward.
Yeah, we can do that.
Let's,
And if we had
let's,
done that, we wouldn't be having this.
Exactly.
let's listen to what the planning board has to say.
Well, they'll have an opportunity to have a
Right.
public forum at the planning board
Exactly.
level, and the business communities. I'm sure more than
We'll be
welcome.
there. You can bet we'll be there.
Okay, so
Okay.
we're gonna pass it
How is that?
on.
Yeah.
Eugene.
I have a question, and I believe Mark and Mike may have a similar question. And at the risk of opening up an entirely new can of worms, inasmuch as there are other towns that we consider to be aesthetically pleasing who have sign ordinances that are much, much simpler than the 14 pages plus charts, graphs, and circles and arrows that we're currently using, have we considered taking one of those ordinances and tweaking it to make it work for Red
We've
Bank?
already,
rather
yes,
than starting
done
out?
it.
And you mean to tell me Princeton's 7 pages wasn't good enough for us? We have to go for 30 pages?
Mr. Sickles.
Princeton's beautiful.
Yeah,
Mr. Sickles, we know
I don't
you.
know why
Come
that
on.
would work for us.
You were at all those code meetings, and we talked about the Princeton, and we talked about all the
We
different,
talked about Princeton. I did not do an analysis as to whether or not it's 4 pages or whether
No, we
it's
did
4
not.
pages.
we worked off the.
May reference other pages, so I haven't done that yet.
Let me bail him out on that. First of all, if he was at those meetings, he was there in accommodation and to be helpful to everybody.
Right.
So I thank him for it. If that was the question as to whether or not Princeton's ordinance is equally qualified to be adopted or to be reviewed and maybe applied to Red Bank, that should not have been to Stanley, it should have been to the person you were paying, or we are paying.
Yeah, he
which
was
is the
there.
latter.
He
And
was
he should have
there.
answered it.
And just
And he
to
did.
clarify, P&M early on said to me at one point that their instructions were not to redo the sign ordinance. Their instructions were to tweak the current sign ordinance. And they said that right from the very beginning,
listen.
that they were not
I will
starting from
disagree with you,
scratch at
Jim,
every
because we-
point. Well, I'm just saying what was told to me. I didn't. That's not.
We specifically told them that we want to reduce the wording of this ordinance and reduce the regulation by at least 35%. And it just, as a goal, we need to reduce the amount of ordinances that we have to deal with. So that was instructions to
Right.
professionals.
I just meant that if they were saying that to me, I don't think that they went and looked
And
at.
they did pick towns, other towns that had
Right.
similar type of
Mhm.
occupancy, such as Hatfield and whatnot. And
Right.
We did look at those
Collinswood.
and compare those.
Mhm.
We didn't specifically do the ones that you mentioned,
Right, right.
but we did look at some other ordinances and did a
Mhm.
comparison as to what would be helpful. And this is a reduced ordinance from what was
Mhm.
there.
I agree.
And we did address some of the confusing language that was there. But we did not do an item for item comparison with the
No,
ordinance.
right. I agree 100%.
Donna Bars and 27 years of experience, you know.
I'm going to make a suggestion, Linda.
Yeah.
My suggestion is, and again, I want to thank the committee, I certainly want to thank the chairperson. The document that we have before us is an extraordinary plus based upon what we've been working with, okay? I've heard tonight that at least not Haddonfield, that is not similar to Red Bank, but 2 other towns that we have a great deal of commonality and frankly, a great deal of respect in so many different ways. At least one of those towns is in a class by itself, has ordinances which accomplish the same goals, if not better than Red Bank, certainly with less friction. And we haven't even looked at it. And I'm not asking the planner to look at it. All of us can read English.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Mr. Scavone to please provide the administrator by tomorrow morning copies of the Princeton and the Montclair sign ordinance.
Mhm.
He's not going to editorialize on it. He's going to send it to all of us, and all of us can read English. We'll take a look at it.
Well, we've been
What's
there,
that?
done that.
Well, he's here. He knows. He hears me.
We've been there and we have
No,
done
but
that.
I think the rest of us would like to see it because I think if Princeton come up with an extraordinary,
Well, you know what, we've already
Yeah.
spent $18,000, and Mr. Carter, like you were saying, if we throw out the whole ordinance and start over, you know, that's one thing. That's gonna cost us a lot more money.
Wait a minute, how's it going to cost us a lot of money when we're stealing somebody else's ordinance. Don't forget, I'm Neapolitan, I can work it.
So after 2.5 years of working on this ordinance sign changes and trying to accommodate everybody, you're saying you just want to throw out this whole ordinance and start a new one?
No, I didn't say that at all.
Okay.
I'm respecting everything that you've done, and I think this is a good and positive step. But we've heard, at least, the other side can talk for themselves, but we've heard that at least one extraordinary town in New Jersey has an ordinance that seems to work for them. And I'm not saying we have to use that, or send it to T&M for analysis as to why we should use that. But I think all of us can read and see how they address certain issues. And it might very well be that we will be introducing this ordinance, but none of us have seen it. I didn't want to
Well,
see it.
nobody's seen this. This thing has been sent to everybody at least 3
No, I'm talking about the
times.
Princeton ordinance.
Princeton, well then, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. This is to me like a foot dragging tactic.
Well, no, that was why we went through the
But-
committee,
right,
and we
and we
agreed
did
to
the
carve this
committee.
out so that we wouldn't have this issue
Exactly.
tonight when it's introduced, so that we could have just like put it on, we could have taken the vote and been done with
But
it.
the
but there
mayor's
were-
talking about getting it down to 7 pages. Now,
But we don't,
That's
I'm not
starting over.
disagreeing with you about wasting money. I mean, we spent a ton of money on this.
Yeah.
You worked really, really hard on it over the years, and I don't want to see that work go to waste, which was why I just said,
So let's
let's
get
just
this.
let's just carve out the open signs
Exactly.
and introduce it.
That's what we need to do. Let it go to the planning board, see what they say. If everybody wants to look at the Princeton ordinances, that's fine,
What I would suggest is that whether this is adopted on first reading or not, if it would be beneficial, I can get the Princeton ordinance and do a comparison between the two, and it's a flat fee, you're not paying anything extra for that.
No, I don't think we need that. I think that they can all get copies and look at it
I
themselves.
have to think that's great.
You want to pay the attorney?
It's a flat.
It's a flat fee.
Okay.
I was mindful of the $18,000, I didn't want you to think of the extra.
Where do we stand?
I want to vote. I want to
So
get
we're
this
going
thing
to
in.
introduce
I would like to-
as is, subject to the change that the borough attorney
Yes,
has indicated.
yes.
Which is okay with you, too,
And let's
Brad?
get it, let's at least introduce it, we'll go to the planning board, that's gonna take a couple of months. We'll give you people time to do things.
The planning board has to reply within 30 days.
Oh, good.
If we do introduce, that does take that step to distribute to the planning board, so if they have any comments, we get those while we're reviewing those other ordinances. So when we get all the comments at once, and when we come back to it, we'll have all the information.
But you know, Stan, it's kind of crazy, because we've already done that, our committee has already done all that, and that's why we're at where we are.
Well,
And now,
procedurally, if we want the planning board's review, we have to introduce it.
no, I understand that.
So we
For
do
everybody's-
both things simultaneously. Get the information to council and have the planning board review during the time.
Cindy, I understand your frustration completely, but I think with it being a new council, looking at this for the first time with fresh eyes, you had to expect that there was going to be some different opinions.
Michael, I kept Ed in the loop because he is Preservation Red Bank, and you said you knew what was going on too, and now you're kind of turning into a foot dragger too. So you know what, this affects code because the code can't enforce until these ordinances are solidified. So you've got people doing anything downtown. It's like the Wild Wild West. River Center doesn't want to be enforced. They want, you just heard Jim say that. He wants people.
I did not say that.
You said you wanted people to do what they want to do, and
Those
yes,
words
you
did not, never came out of my mouth. Cindy. So
Well,
please
to
don't
that
say
effect.
To say, first of all, real quick, is to say foot dragging, I'd have to respectfully disagree because you tabled this in December. You could have had this vote in
I was
December.
waiting for you. You were supposed to be a Republican and.
It has nothing to do with the sign ordinance, Cindy. You had the vote in December, but you could have made the decision on the sign ordinances. Instead, you waited for the new council, and being a new council, being on a new committee, we were going to revisit this and look at it with fresh eyes. I think it's a great idea to have Gene do this.
That's just.
And we did, and we did it. It's not going to cost money. But in all fairness, Michael, we
We did, we looked at it with fresh eyes. We found one caveat that needed to be carved out. We agreed to carve it out. It didn't get carved out. If it had gotten carved out, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We would have already voted on it. It would have been done.
I agree.
And, you know, I do want to be clear, I can do the analysis whether it's adopted on first reading or not. I wasn't sure, Mayor, was there a motion?
The motion is by
I
Councilwoman
would like to
Burnham
make a motion,
to
yeah.
adopt
To adopt
as introduced,
as-
subject to the clarification you put on the record regarding the open signs. And there's a second on that?
Yes.
Second. He's got to say it.
No,
Okay.
I was agreeing with you, and then
Right.
he said yes.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor to introduce only?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Public hearing will be when, ma'am? Give it a month.
Thank you. Thank you for moving forward.
Okay. March 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Okay. It'll be referred to the planning board. Resolutions by consent unless there's any objection. Resolution 1656 through and including 1663. I'm sorry, Steve, you had your hand up. My apologies. Forget about the consent.
My comments refer to those that are not by consent. 57, 59, and 64.
Sure.
Is this the proper time to
Yes,
do that?
absolutely.
Okay. I want to make sure that I understand the difference between a settlement and a judgment. My understanding is that a settlement is an agreement and a judgment is a decree given by a judge.
That's generally accurate, yes.
Okay, so then I want to ask a question about the judgment 1664, and then I want to ask a question about the settlement, which would be 1657.
1664 first? Is
Yeah,
that correct? Okay.
if that's okay. My understanding.
All right, 1664
Right.
is Red Bank Crossing, and that is
The
it
total.
says due judgments of the tax court, but
Right.
frankly, I'll leave it up to the attorney, but that doesn't mean that there was a trial. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it means it's a settlement.
Well, the wording is different. I presume there's a reason for that. Can you-
All I'm saying is that, is there a question?
Well, my question
No,
is,
the question is, what's the
did-
difference between a judgment and a
did
settlement?
we contest anything somewhere? And if we did, what do we call the result of that contest?
Yeah, on the specifics of these, I'm not familiar with these. I was not representing the borough at that time, and I don't know.
Yeah, well, there's-
And I can't give you that information.
Okay.
As far as whether something is contested at some point, and it is contested, and then a settlement is entered into, or is contested through a motion or a trial before the.
Oh, there are three lawyers here.
Right. Everything
One,
in
two,
the,
three.
everything in the tax court.
That is a generally accurate answer.
Everything in the tax court is contested, okay? Because somebody files a complaint, the borough files, if not an appearance, sometimes an answer, generally an appearance. So if you're saying whether that's contested, yeah, that's contested.
No, I'm saying that I don't understand the difference between a judgment and a settlement.
Okay,
And
the person to answer that, I hate to call him up,
I'm happy to come on.
but with the consent of our borough attorney, our former borough attorney, who also represented us on.
So,
For the consent, welcome.
the process, thank you, good evening, Mayor and Council.
good to see you.
Daniel Ahern, 16 Sunnylands Court, Littlesville.
Thank you.
So, the procedure is even though there's a settlement, the court effectively gives that a blessing by entering a judgment, because the collector It's like a decree, exactly. So
It's like a divorce.
the first step is that a settlement is reached, and a stipulation of settlement is executed between the attorney representing the borough and the taxpayer. That's submitted to the tax court judge, and the judge enters the settlement. When the judgment is entered, it goes to the tax collector, and that's the next step in the process. Is the tax collector then authorizes the issuance of the credits or refund. So it's
And a judgment?
a judgment is, it's basically the court giving the blessing to the settlement.
The court, if I may, the court reduces the settlement to a judgment. When you give them the settlement, the judge the settlement, then the judge accepts that and turns it into a judgment.
So has 1657 become a judgment?
Which one is that?
It's an appealed settlement. My purpose here
That
is
has not become a judgment, because the council hasn't approved it yet.
Oh,
Council
so
has to approve the settlement.
either the judge can approve it or the council can approve it.
Well, the council has to approve it first before it can go to the judge. If the council doesn't approve it, then the stipulation is not authorized, and the attorney cannot submit it to the court for disposition by the judge.
So is it then true that 1664 has at some other time been submitted to the council?
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
This is the second time?
It's submitted. The first
We're
step
seeing
is,
this.
to submit it to a resolution to the council where they authorize the settlement. Then once it's authorized, then the stipulation of settlement is executed by the attorneys and submitted to the tax court, and then the judgment is entered.
Then I should be able to find 1664 somewhere in the minutes.
Should be, yes.
Yeah, we did that. That I can recall.
And your question about the mayor, they contested, yes, they're always contested. I mean, those are always, they're litigated, discovery is taken, there's negotiation, sometimes appraisal reports are exchanged, so they are always contested.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
The amount of money refunded in 1664, there's a total of 17,000 and change that is refunded. Have those assessments changed going forward permanently until a revaluation, a reassessment, another appeal? And how do we fund that?
They change for a period of 2 years.
Changes for 2 years. And then what happened?
And then it's subject to reassessment, reevaluation. It doesn't have to be a reevaluation if there were changes on the property, if for some reason there was an inspection of the property, some reason to change the assessment.
So if there has been a judgment or a settlement, that applies for 2 years going forward, and then something has to be renewed. Either you stick with what the settlement was, or you revalue the property.
Correct. And then if it were revalued, then the property owner would have the option to file a new appeal if they don't agree with it.
Right. Okay. So then, if we go to 1657, where the refund amount is 29,600 roughly. So altogether, there's $47,000 worth of refunds for these two. And the assessments change based on the refund? Is that what happens? I mean, I see on 64, the assessment changed from $3,591,000 to $3,000,000. The total was $17,280 on the refund. The assessment is reduced by X amount of money that results in that credit. That's going to last for 2 years. These were, is that correct? It'll last for 2 years. Okay, I want to go back then to 1657, which is a 6-year settlement. It's a settlement of 6 years of appeals,
What,
right?
right, well, don't forget Hurricane Sandy took place during that. So what I'm saying, that probably deals with the valuation issue. I would think.
So when we go forward 2 years from 2011, the first one was 2011. It goes 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. All of those assessments have been appealed. What happens now? Is it 2 years from now?
Oh, yeah, it's 2 years from
Mayor,
now.
can I just, I apologize, I'm just
Yeah.
going to interject again. Just one point of clarification, Monmouth County is now in the assessment demonstration program, which we've all heard about. So there is no freeze act in Monmouth County. So it is year to year. So those assessments, if we agree on an appeal that's settled in 2015, the assessor has the ability to the following year adjust that assessment based on market conditions.
Have we decided whether we're going to participate in that or not? We have till April.
But that's just so those assessments, they're fixed for those particular years, and that's it,
Yeah, and
as of now in Monmouth County.
And thank you. And the settlement agreement in this particular matter specifically references that there's a right to appeal following the years covered by the assessment. I'm sorry, by the settlement.
How do we fund these refunds? Because I see also that there is a resolution to rescind a request for $17,000+ to pay for tax appeals. So my question is, how do we fund these refunds? And how do we fund them going forward?
There are usually budgeted for anticipated tax appeal settlements or judgments, however they're arrived at. And if not, there's the ability to transfer funds under some way, depending when in the year you are, and also the ability to bond.
And we've already bonded some tax appeals in the recent past. How are we funding them going forward?
Eugenia?
For this year budget, we're looking at maybe 125,000 to be put in the budget for some of these refunds. Some of these refunds, like the one that we have here, the 70,000 has to be a cash refund because the program is sold. In other cases, it will be a credit. And if
They have to agree to a credit, don't they?
Exactly. And the
So
attorney
they may or may not agree.
The direction that the attorney has, and please correct me if I'm wrong, if whenever possible, we issue a credit back when the property.
That
has
would be
been
our
sold.
preference, I understand.
Yeah, but then when the property has been sold, we have no choice but to give a cash refund. Now, going forward, the ADP program, that's something that they may or council, and will take a look at it here, the now in the month of March, to see what decision, which way do we go by April, that decision has to be made.
And there'll be a discussion of that at a subsequent meeting.
I believe the mayor just gave instructions to our forum administrators today to set up some kind of meeting.
Great.
Plan to bring their public meeting
Terrific.
to discuss the pros and cons of the ADP program and consult with the Personnel Finance Committee. But it will be at a public meeting where we have these presentations.
And where there's time for the decision to be made either way.
Yes.
I believe the decision has to be made by April.
Yes. So it'll probably be the first meeting in March, and so that we have the second meeting in order to make a decision.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on any agenda? If not, it's moved by consent unless there's objection. Resolution 1656 through, actually 56, 58, 59, 61, 2, and 3. Any objection? Okay, motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 1657 is a resolution authorizing a tax appeal settlement with respect to Channing Brewing for those tax appeals that are referenced in the resolution. Our motion?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
This has to do with Chair Irwin and his business. And I know that Mr. Irwin is a supporter of my colleagues here on the council, and I just want to exercise a little bit of caution wherein he may have thrown a fundraiser, made donations to campaigns, and I guess what the question maybe is for Chief. If Mr. Irwin has contributed to campaigns or done fundraising for the Red Bank Republicans, can my colleagues become this?
That's, as a general proposition, the answer would be yes, but there are specific circumstances in which it would alter. I would need to have specific information in order to respond to that. Having held a fundraiser or participated in, given a donation would not be enough to create a disqualifying conflict as a general rule, but there are specific circumstances under which, given the volume of the contributions, the nature of the involvement, it could make a difference. I can't do it on a general basis.
Well, yeah, and I guess I'll be asking the question because I just want to make sure that we protect the council sitting before us.
Certainly, and all I can tell you is if they're on that level of information, if there's any council member who feels that there's been a level of support that makes it so that a reasonable person would think that they are not able to act independently, then they should abstain on that basis. That's, without having any more information, there's nothing more I can say.
Just a quick question, does it matter that these are for years prior to the people being on the council that Councilman Lippert is talking about?
No, I don't think that that would be a factor that would make a difference because the settlement is presumably of some benefit to the individual, otherwise they would be entering into it. So that's the idea, whether there's been a level of involvement that would create a desire to benefit someone more than you would have for another individual. Obviously, clearly the council for the borough and recommended the settlement and believe that it's also in the best interest of the borough.
I appreciate that. And thank you for raising that. I do appreciate it. Is this something we can hold off to the next meeting, just to be certain that we're comfortable?
Sure. I mean, I don't see any rush. I mean, obviously, whatever we do has to go back to the tax court anyhow. The parties are, in the litigation mode. There's no harm. Okay, so there's a motion to table. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 1664, authorizing the tax credits and refunds already previously approved by the council due to judgment of the tax court. Motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay. Resolution 1665, a resolution authorizing tax credits and refunds totaling $1,153.75 due to an overpayment. Motion? Motion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other resolutions? I don't have any proclamations. So Black History, T. Thomas Fortune Mark. Whereas in 1776, the United States of America was imagined as a new nation dedicated to the proposition that all persons are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas the history of the United States includes injustices and the denial of basic fundamental rights, and these injustices include approximately 250 years of slavery, 100 years of lynchings, denial of both fundamental and human and civil rights, and withholding of the basic rights of citizenship, and these inequalities and injustices in our society still exist today. And whereas many African American men and women worked against racism to achieve success, and many others who were pivotal in the exploration and westward expansion of the United States and pioneers such as Red Bank's own William Company, T. Thomas Fortune, and our first fire chief of color, Joel Black, would have all served as positive beneficiaries of our foreparents and as great role models and leaders for future generations. And whereas one of these pioneers, T. Thomas Fortune, chose to move with his family to the borough of Red Bank in 1901, and he resided in a home known as Maple Hill on Merton Place for many years. And Mr. Fortune's house is one of only 55 national historic landmarks and one of only 2 landmarks associated with African American history in the state of New Jersey. And the T. Thomas Fortune House is one of only 55 national historic landmarks in New Jersey, and only one of 2 national historic landmarks associated with African Americans in New Jersey. Whereas Black History Month celebrated during the month of February dates back to 1946, when Carter G. Woodson set aside a special period of time in February to recognize the heritage and achievements of Black Americans. Now therefore be resolved that the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Red Bank agree while the United States began in the division, it was now moved forward with purpose, united tirelessly as one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, and honor the contributions of all pioneers who helped ensure the legacy of these great United States, and acknowledge that all of the people of the United States are the recipients of the wealth of history given to us by Black culture, and recognize the importance of Black History Month as an opportunity to reflect on the complex history of the U.S. while remaining hopeful and confident about the path that lies ahead. Therefore, be resolved that February 2016 is designated as T. Thomas Fortune Month in the Borough of Red Bank in honor of the man and his contributions and accomplishments as a pioneer of African American civil rights pantheon, and also as Black History Month, that the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Red Bank agree with while the United States began the division forward with purpose, united tirelessly as one nation, indivisible, and justice for all. Any old business? Any new business?
Mayor, I just have one thing. I just wanted to remind everybody that the 50/50 raffle that the Red Bank Borough Education Foundation is holding will be on Friday, May 20th at the Red Bank Primary School's International Night. Donations of $5 per ticket, and they are available at rbbef.org on the homepage of the website.
Thank you. No other new business? Audience? Carl?
Good evening, Carl Colmorgan, 67 Oakland Street. I don't know what kind of arrangement you have with the leasing. The trash pickup has been great, but I'd like to know why they cannot put the empty containers back on the curb so a car could pull up and park in a space without having to get out to move the container. I know when the borough of Red Bank picked up the trash, the containers were put back up on the curb. I didn't realize it at the time, but I tried to save a space in front of the house one day, and I put the can back out after it was empty, and the supervisor came by and put the can up on the sidewalk. I went and found the drivers to apologize to them, because I'm sure they were going to be reprimanded. So I don't know if there's anything that we can do. They take the time to put it back to the curb. Can't they take a second or more to set it up on the curb? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey Carl, can I say something to Carl? Carl, you know what's funny? I roll mine out to the street by the curb, and I don't put mine on my grass. So I guess it's like wherever you put it, they should put it back.
Well, you're not supposed to put it on the curb. When you put your trash out, you're not supposed to put your trash out in the street.
Well, that's how in Fairhaven they put it out.
Yeah,
in the
but don't they
street,
have
because
don't they have the arm? That makes a big difference.
Right.
They got one-armed bandits. This is a regular pickup.
Right.
And I don't think it's asking too much for them to put it there. Here's a picture of a street I took this morning. Here's 4 houses in a row that nobody could park in front of the house. You know, it's minor to some people, but it's major to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Mr. Hardy's here from the Department of Public Utilities. I'm sure Rich will take that back to the director in the morning. Please, Rich.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Gary Hager. This is my first council meeting ever. And I must say it's It was a little better. A little bit of the national politics, but
Well, it's not quite the Republican debates, you know.
We're going to start charging admission.
well, I won't take much time. I'm a new owner. I'm a new, not a resident, but a business owner in Red Bank. I run a financial planning practice on Harding, and my family and I recently purchased Park Avenue Puppies, which is a Red Bank institution for the last 8 years run by the Stone family. There was a resolution that was published by mom and freeholders encouraging municipalities to basically stop pet shops from being able to sell puppies or kittens. We only sell puppies at Red Bank, at Park Avenue. I know that it's not on your docket. I know that it may not even be brought up in council, but I wanted to kind of get ahead of it. I wanted to introduce myself. I wanted to encourage questions, and I wanted to encourage all council members to visit the shop, see how we operate, and understand that we're really a boutique. There are bad players out there, really bad, and they absolutely need to be shut down, both from the breeder side as well as the shop side. But there's been tremendous progress that's been made in this area in the last few years, and I just really wanted to kind of say that, introduce myself, and I'm willing to provide the council members when and if this particular item comes up with whatever information they need to make a sound decision.
Well, Mr. Hager, thank you for being here, and thank you for your comments. I can look back that there were some requests years ago that similar ordinances be introduced. We looked at it deliberatively and made some inquiries, and we decided at that point there was no necessity at that time. I mean, the council is concerned, obviously, about the safety as well as the welfare, and also how puppies are handled. And I think we do know that there are some wonderful examples of responsible ownership and that are not so responsible ones. So we'll keep an open mind. There have been previous requests to have to done it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Gary and I have been friends now for probably over a year, and I've been...
I won't hold that against you.
Yeah. And I've been in Park Avenue Puppies probably 20 or 30 times just to go in and say hi, and I'm obsessed obviously with puppies, but...
Why'd you buy them?
That's what I say.
I can't sure you care of them, you know, but that's say...
Your mother would like it too.
That's right.
So get one.
I think coming in next week, I promise. But to your point, was Park Avenue is that example of how every pet boutique should be. The cleanliness, how they run their operation, the care, love, and support they have for the animals is truly incredible. And they've done an amazing job in our staple in Red Bank, and I look forward to the continued success of Gary, and anything we can do to help support you, please let me know. Because
And Amanda, my daughter.
yes,
I want to add that for the
record. But it's an amazing shop, so just want to let that be known.
You didn't disclose that. Oh, the other connection.
Oh, his daughter, yes. We've had fun conversations.
You know, you're making it difficult for two members of this council to even reply. Linda and I have lost our significant other four-legged friends. So we can't walk into your place because we'd probably walk out with the entire inventory.
That's why I took these guys earlier.
I actually did walk in today and I met Gary for the first time. I was very impressed with the operation. I just want to piggyback on what Mike said. And Gary was very open to providing whatever documentation or records, whatever that the borough may, if something we ever conceivably need to verify that they are one of the best shining examples of a boutique and a great example of a business in Red Bank that obviously brings people in and it warms everybody's heart to see puppies. So,
which one did you walk out with?
It was on my lunch hour, thankfully I didn't have time.
What I would say, Ed, Mr. Mayor, is that my family has been pet lovers our whole lives. We own 3 dogs ourselves, and obviously the pet store, which is like being a grandfather. You can go visit the grandchildren, then somebody else takes care of them. They can have all the fun and let people do everything else. But there's a lot of people that come into the store that just want to kind of breathe in the youth of the puppies and the abandon and the play, and then they just go out and they go to their day. So it's really nice to do that. So I'm going to encourage you to come in with no expectation on a purchase, but just experience the puppies. You have free playtime
spoil
anytime
them
you
for
want
you.
it.
Anybody else? Mr. Boynton?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon, sir.
A couple things. 365 Street Avenue, 1200 Street, my sister-in-law. Also, my niece stay down in the local landing, and also my niece stay in Montgomery Church. You wasn't here, Mr. Miller, a couple of weeks ago. I just want to let you know, me and a couple of the residents there, we did meet with the freeholder, Mama County freeholders, for the crosswalks on Shrewsbury Avenue and River Street. We did meet up there, and I think everything is going well. I've done as follow-up letters to the council as well.
Thank you.
You know, thank you. A couple of things I got to say right quick is, I know we moved the guys, you got rid of the sanitation department, and now they're over in the street department. Maybe somebody can answer. Why are these catch bases, the bottom of them, is not getting cleaned?
Stan?
Mayor, I don't know that they aren't. I know that our public works workers have been going around cleaning catch basins. Fred, I'll be glad to give me some examples. I'll follow up.
Well, when you say cleaning them, I brought it to your attention several times. Right there on Shrewsbury Avenue, across from that car dealer where Sal's Tavern used to be. It's not on Shrewsbury Avenue, but it's right there across from that dealer. They got the leaves and they shoved them back down in the catch basin. They shoved them instead of cleaning them off. And all of those leaves and the paper, which I gave you pictures of several times, for the same debris is still in that catch basin. When you can get a truck, and I'm not knocking nobody, but you sent a truck across town a couple months ago, and you left the whole catch basin up, and you clean the whole thing out. We've been trying to do that over here. These catch basins have to be lifted up, and you have to clean them out. No sense cleaning the top if you don't clean the bottom.
Mr. Boyd, I'm well aware of that. I know just today we had a discussion with our public works director about not only cleaning the catch basins, but also that one at River and Layton about we're talking about expanding that so it can handle more flow, because the way it's situated now, it clogs often. As soon as they clean it out, the rain comes, more leaves gather, and it's clogged again. So we're talking to do some corrective action there to make it larger so it will accommodate the flow that comes to that catch basin. So we are discussing it. I'll specifically have them look at the one you're talking about now, and we'll follow up.
But it's not just that one, Stanley, and it seems like you come to the council meeting, and you get up here and you ask what's going on the west side, nothing being done.
Okay, Freddie, I have to correct you. I have seen our crews out cleaning catch basins on the west side. To say it's not done is not correct.
Well, let's put it like this.
Okay,
let's put it like this.
If we have a problem where they missed one and didn't pull it for whatever reason, then I'll follow up.
You know, Stanley, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you, okay? Because I work for the town. And we had crews do different sections of this whole town. Make sure every last one of these catch basins is done. All out of Red Bank, all the way down to Montgomery Terrace, all the way down to Nursing Home, Chapin Avenue, catch basins. We had different sections that we done, okay? We just didn't ride all over town. This was our section to do. So I know about this situation cleaning the catch basins. You just can't go and clean the top. You got to get that truck and lift this thing up. And you got to suck all this stuff out. You got a long shovel. I don't know if the borough still have that bill or not. And you clean all that stuff out and you put the catch base back down on there. It's clean. You mark it down. You've done this one. You go to the other one. You don't have to work on saying that they are done.
I'm not arguing with you. I know how to clean catch basins. In fact, we have somebody injured today because he did lift a lid and was injured. So we do have.
Excuse me, you say somebody was injured?
Yes. Lifting the top off a catch basin. So they do that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I guess
I'm an experienced person.
We'll follow up on it. You know that. You have my cell phone. You got a problem, let me know and follow up.
The other thing is, your councilman sit on this bench. And Bridge Avenue, we paid all this money to have these pipes put in Bridge Avenue. Why is that street looking the way it is? Can somebody explain that to me?
Greg, you know the asphalt place is closed, and you have to wait till the asphalt's available to be paved. Plus, you have to let the trenches settle before you do the final paving. It's planned to pave it.
Wait,
It's under
Stanley,
construction.
Something working here, Stanley, because, you know, I don't want to sit here and argue with you, Stanley, but Stanley. Don't, look, they paving roads, Stanley. I goes out there to Saboga. Trust me when I tell you. I can prove it to you. They pave a road. Okay? But what I'm saying, when they put that down, they should have fixed the road. We paid them the money, got the money, and you're gone. How would you like to come down that road every day, dodging holes like this and that? It's a shame. The state required, maybe I'm wrong, but I know Hoboken, Newark, for example, I think it is, all the way up. If any company, contractor come in and dig the road up, they're responsible to put that road back like they found it. Because too many people were suing the towns for potholes and whatnot.
We have a contract to rebuild that road.
I'm not saying we're not going to build that road, Sally.
Part of that, we had to do underground water work, we repair a lot of water lines, reconnect, things like that. We have to let that settle before we do the final paving, otherwise we'll get dips. So
This is
there's a
simple.
time
I'm not
between
going.
the-
I'm going to move on to something else because when you keep saying,
Let's move on to something else.
yeah, because when you keep saying let it settle, they have enough equipment out here that vibrate this ground to level it off. They have enough equipment out here to do that.
Okay.
You forgot. I used to haul black tar for Saboga to job sites. I know what they do on job sites. But the other thing is, Mr. Bennett, trying to get together, to work in this town with some of the councilmen is kind of hard. Some of them reach out. Mike, Mark, Linda, Cindy. But some don't reach out. We got to come together at one and try to do something on this side of town that needs help. You need help. Got to try to do something. I mean, I just seen Mr. Zippers the other day when I was going over somebody's house and I was talking to one of the workers. He passed by and blew the horn. I mean, that's not right. You know me. I'm well known here in this town. Y'all know it, Stan. And I walk all over this town. All over this town. And I'm pretty sure every one of y'all councilmen see me up there, downtown or wherever, you'll stop and talk to me. It's a shame when you get a councilman that just don't even want to speak to you half the time. But half of the peoples, and maybe I'm wrong for saying this, half of the peoples that he called for election is half of my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, is there a motion to adjourn into executive session? Actually, before we adjourn, how about resolution 1666? Resolution for the payment of bills amounting to $4,552,652.93. Motion, Linda?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Now, is there a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of discussing litigation? No anticipated action will be taken tonight for the formal action. So we will be returning after executive session purely for purposes of adjournment. Okay, motion? Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you for coming.